logically, the man has no way out. He can try to pull and tug and make his wrists and ankles bleed more, but he has no way out. He's in prison, isn't he? Do you think God's going to leave you in that kind of a prison? Isaiah didn't say that God would leave you in that prison. Where's that at? Isaiah 42? Isaiah 42. Where'd you get prison out of that, Chad? I just looked at the definition. I said, let's see. To have no way out. Prison. Right? Now, what am I going to do with prison? Get your concordance out. Look up the word under the P's. P-R-I-S-O-N. Look at prison. Read the part of the verse there that speaks of God releasing from prison. Circle those verses. Write them on paper. Read them. Study them. Put them on the paper with the definition. And preach it. Very simple. Go to Isaiah 42. Isaiah 42, and look in the 7th verse. I'll read verse 5 down. Thus saith God the Lord, He that created the heavens, He that created the heavens and stretched them out, He that spread forth the earth and that which cometh out of it, He that giveth breath unto the people upon it, and spirit to them that walk therein. Verse 6, I, the Lord, have called thee in righteousness, and will hold thine hand, and will keep thee, and give thee a covenant of the people. The word of in that text is supposed to be to the people for a light of the Gentiles. They say Paul was, some of the writers will tell us that Paul was a picture of the New Testament Isaiah, to where Isaiah was a picture of Paul, to where they both had a ministry to the Gentiles, or that which was not Jewish. In the 2nd century and so on, the Jews were pretty much made up of 3 classes of people. You had the Hebrews, which were a pure Israelite race, where they had so many generations that were Palestinian. From Palestine, they were pure Israelite. Then you had the Hellenists, which in about 300 years before Christ, about 321 or so, when Alexander the Great defeated many of the areas and the lands there, Greek became the predominant language in those regions. Okay? And even in Rome and Italy. So those that had ancestry from the diaspora or the dispersion, they were called Hellenists because the word Hellen, H-E-L-L-E-N, means Greek. Greek-speaking Jews, Hellenists. Then you had the proselytes, which are not to be confused with God-fearers, because proselytes had renounced heathenism, undergone circumcision, and kept the minute requirements of the Jewish law. Are you out there? That was the proselytes. Now the God-fearers were friendly to the Jews and the proselytes, but they were not considered Jewish because they had not undergone circumcision. Now all 3 of these classes were a part of the Jerusalem church at the time. And I just said all that to say this. Right here in look in verse 6 at the end. For a light of the who? The Gentiles. People say, well, they had the prophecy that God would open the door of faith to the Gentiles. That's true, didn't they? They had Hosea, they had Jeremiah 31:31. They had Isaiah 65 and so on. And many verses in Isaiah that God would open the door of salvation to the Gentiles, to whomsoever He would cause to believe. How many know you can't believe in Jesus on your own? There's got to be a great God behind that. And if He's going to elect some Gentiles, they're going to be believers. I said all that because what's the light of the world? Jesus Christ is the light of the world. Well, who's writing here? No, who's writing here? Isaiah's writing. How many years before Christ? No. At least 750. And he says that he would be a light. This covenant would be a light of the Gentiles. Now look in verse 7. To open the blind eyes. And that's not what Benny Hinn's talking about. That's talking about those that cannot see afar off. When the Bible speaks of those who cannot see afar off, you know what that means? That doesn't mean physically. That means spiritually. Did you know in the physical, your physical eyes can only see as far as God permits you to see? You can see the clouds, you can see the mountain range, but can you see beyond that? Not many times you can. That's the same thing in the Spirit. God only allows you to see and understand His Word in proportion to His sovereign will. He only allows you to see what He would will you to see. Then how many know that it's very possible today you and I could be sitting in some type of error in our life? But when a person who's a human, when a human being thinks they have it all figured out, they need to reach up and grab their ears because they're a donkey. I've got it all. I've got the standard of faith. Martin Luther said, you're a jackass. Oh, Chad, you shouldn't say that. No, yes, I should. If you think you have it all figured out in your flesh and your doctrinal statement has a big fat period at the end of it, and you say, we're the standard of truth, you're a cult. Oh, boy, someone's going to get mad. Is it the truth or not? No man has all the truth. And Jesus ain't going to give you everything in one day. Now, there are essentials in the Bible that if you don't believe these things, you cannot be a part of the Christian church. If you don't believe Jesus Christ raised from the dead, you're not a Christian. You might as well go worship with the Muslims. If you don't believe he was born of a virgin, you might as well just go, party up with the New Agers. If you don't believe Jesus Christ is God in the flesh, then you and I are not going to be able to fellowship. We can't hang out. We can talk. I'm not going to argue with you. But we really can't be friends because we don't serve the same Father. One of us is serving the devil. Because if Jesus is not your God, and if I believe I'm serving Jesus, how can we be brothers if we have two different birthers? Who is my father? Jesus said, who is my mother? Who is my brother? Those that do the will of my Father. Those that do what he says. And when you do what God says, you're a part of the family of God. Not because of what you did, but because of what he did. And you only do these works of righteousness because he wills for you to do them. Because you're saved, not to be saved. Any man who tries to gain forgiveness is going to be a man in despair and having zero zilch way out. No sentence of death in him except a literal death sentence. Isaiah 42. Now, verse 7, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners. From where? From the prison. And them that sit in darkness out of the prison house. Every time the Bible speaks of prison, you can find somewhere in the context light. Because prison in the book of Acts and so on, it's funny. You look up the word prison in your concordance, and the book of Acts has like all those references to prison. All them preachers went to prison. All of Jesus' people. Isn't that awesome? There's only a few more verses of prison in the whole Bible, but the book of Acts is like fills up almost the portion of the page. It's funny. I thought it was, but y'all didn't. But anyways, Isaiah 42, to open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the prison, to them that sit in darkness. Prison is a dark place. How many know that this prison is not just like Alcatraz? It's a prison of your own mind. Your mind, well, I've got it all figured out. That you're in prison. Chad, don't you know that such and such authority said this and you say that? You're in prison. This is how it is, and it'll always be like this. It'll never change. You're imprisoned. We think this is a free world. We're all in prison. Go try to hit a bucket of golf balls down here off 35W. You know how much it costs to hit 100 golf balls? $7.50. You're in prison. Boy, I wish y'all would wake up today. You want to go rent a movie? You're going to spend $5 or $6. You might as well go watch one. We're in prison. They dictate the terms of our existence. That's why you have to be under the influence of the Spirit of God. You have to be led by his Spirit. Boy, you better, especially in these days. To open the blind eyes, to bring out the prisoners from the darkness, from prison, which is dark. Chad, do you believe that Jesus Christ heals blind people physically? Somebody answer that for me. You better believe I do. Do I believe he's doing it? Yes, I do. But do I believe this verse is talking about physical blindness? Not at all. I believe the question is not can God, the question is will God. I've said that 1,000 times and I'll keep saying it. The question is not can God. It's not a question of ability. It's a question of will. There's many people who are born again Christians today that are paraplegic. And God has them paraplegic. Oh, well, that's blasphemy, brother. Brother Copeland says, and blah, 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 blah. Who cares? I'm concerned what people say. I want to know what the Word says. Jesus walked through a bunch of impotent folk in the book of John, didn't he? He walked through them and had to put his hand on their shoulder and move around them to get to how many people? To one man. To one man who was 38 years in infirmity. Jesus passed through multitudes of people. Did he heal everybody that day? Could he have? Yes. Excuse me, you're a vessel of wrath fitted to destruction. Oh, pardon me, I don't know you. Excuse me. Oh, there he is. Oh, I don't like that. Neither does the devil.